Hello, good evening, and welcome to another in the series, Why I Write. It's so good to have you here with us as we again start another conversation surrounding being creative, surrounding getting our thoughts and what we know on paper, and not just writing it out on paper, but also getting our books published. So, right now, I'm going to go live on my Facebook page so that all our fans on Facebook can know to join us right here on Why I Write. So, let me just go ahead and copy this because we have just started to do our Why I Write series on Facebook. So, we just want to make sure that no one is left behind and we all know where to find us on Why I Write. So let me just drop our link right here. We have a very interesting guest to be with us here today. So you stay tuned for that. In the meantime, I'm just going to give you the chance to just keep on sharing the link so that they don't miss out on this extremely interesting conversation coming your way. My name is Totlin Oliver. If you are just joining and you've never even seen this program before, we want to thank you so much. Thanking you so much for being here with us today. Yes, what we do here on Why I Write is have discussions with persons who are authors, people who are creative writers, songwriters. We love also to absolutely just delve down into the thought process that goes into starting to write a book and how we end up just how we end up doing exactly that. How do we find the publishers? What are some of the thought processes that we experience when we are writing our books? And we have spoken to so many different types of writers since October 2021. And I have learned a whole lot being the person that has the opportunity to just have these very intimate conversations and to really dive deep with our authors. I don't know if I ever told you the reason I started Why I Write is because I noticed that for creatives, when they go on a platform to be interviewed about their work, they're barely given 5 minutes to speak their mind and to share exactly how they did the process to get to creating their books. Oftentimes, I ask the questions, did you ever see yourself writing a book? Have you ever? And many times the answer is very close to no. So, certainly, we love having these conversations with our writers. So, buckle up. This lady that I have with me today is a lady who has been in the classroom. She has a very powerful accounting background. Also, she has the experience of retiring. She has had a very interesting experience of retiring. And I know that from, we are this small, we always hear about the business of retiring and what is involved. But we sometimes think, or many times think, most times think, that it's not going to happen to us, or it's a far way off. I'm sure you can remember when you got your first paycheck. Maybe you were 18, maybe you were 16, maybe you were 20, maybe 21. And you thought that, okay, I'm now a big person. I can rent my place, I can buy my car, I can do what I want because I'm financially independent. Well, guess what? Sitting and waiting for you around the corner is retirement that also requires you to be financially, mentally, socially, spiritually independent. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Please put your hands together and help me welcome to our Why I Write platform, Patricia Reid-Waugh. Yay! Welcome, Patricia. It's so good to have you here with us on Why I Write. Congratulations on the books you have published.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I was
Thank-
really excited when you extended the invitation to me.
Yes, yes. What excited me most, Patricia, is that wonderful picture of you in some kind of leotard looking thing and maybe some fancy festival skirt. Let us start there. How did that picture come about? I love it.
Well, for the last 8 years, I have been doing a birthday photo shoot. My
Mm,
birthday photo shoot has become legendary. Everybody looks out for it. My birthday is in July, the
okay.
16th of July.
Mhm.
So I do a professional photo shoot at Brian's photo studio.
Okay.
And even the Bryant staff,
Uh-huh.
they are excited when I walk in and they
Yes.
say, "Oh, she's here," and it's a whole big excitement.
Beautiful.
And I just do this photo shoot. It actually started because I said I wanted a decent photograph on my funeral program.
Okay.
I didn't want any pop down photograph on my funeral program. So that was how I did the first photo shoot. And then I gave my family one of the photos and I said, if I die before my next birthday, this is the one I want. And
That's
so
right.
it has become a tradition now that every year I do this photo shoot and then I select one and I say, if I die before next year, that's the one that must go on the cover of my funeral
Yeah.
program.
I love that. I love that, because we are going to end up dead, every one of us, one way or another. And ain't nothing wrong with even planning for that time when it comes. And it's against this background, I'm so happy to have you here, um, especially surrounding the topic that two of your books are on, the topic of retirement. But we're going to get back to those books in just a minute. I want to get to know Patricia a little bit more, especially for those persons who may have never met Patricia. And before we came on air, you were sharing with me some kindred spirits, some mutual friends that, my goodness, that goes all the way back to a good 40 odd years. For you, I'm sure it's a whole lot more. Patricia, where are you from in Jamaica? How did life start out for you?
Well, I was born in Manchester at the Percy Junior Hospital. Interestingly, the hospital is straddles two parishes, I understand, Manchester and Clarendon. The maternity is in Manchester, so I was born in Manchester. But of course, I started traveling as a baby because from one side of the hospital to the other.
Really? How is that possible?
Well, I mean, if the hospital straddles two parishes, then
Ah, I
if
got you.
if I'm being taken from one side of the hospital and my parents lived on the hospital compound because my father was the dispenser, the
Mm,
pharmacist at the hospital, so we lived on the hospital compound. So I've been traveling. I tell people I've been traveling since I was born.
there you go. Across the border consistently.
So born there, and my father was transferred to Morant Bay, went
Mm,
to Morant Bay, and then he was transferred to Kingston.
mm,
So I would have come in Kingston when I probably was round about maybe about 6 years old,
mm.
and this is where I have grown up in
Okay.
Kingston.
What schools did you attend? And what
I
was a young
went
girl's life in Kingston like
we
for you?
we went to I went to Vauxhall Primary School because we lived 2 doors from the school. So I
Mm,
lived in East Kingston.
mhm.
Went to Vauxhall Primary School, And then I got the common entrance for Camperdown, which was very close by.
Right.
After I did GCE at the time, not CSEC, right?
Right. Not
GCE.
CSEC nor CXC. Yes.
Right.
Yes. Old
So
time ones.
yes, after I did O levels, I went to St. Andrew High School
Mm,
for sixth form
mhm,
because Camperdown did not have a sixth form at the time. So
mhm,
I was transferred to St. Andrew High School and
mhm.
did sixth form there.
How
And
how different was it going to St. Andrew High School for girls, St. Andrew as they would call it, compared to Camperdown? You know, the schools you mentioned before, Vauxhall and Camperdown, man, they would always be calling those names of the schools, whether if it's at sporting events, festival, or
it
schools challenge
was
quiz.
it was it was it was exciting. My childhood was really exciting,
Mhm.
and I was involved in everything. I did sports. I played netball. I did track and field. I ran track and field for Camperdown, played netball for Camperdown,
Mhm, mhm,
and I started music. I started music at a very early age. So I was doing piano at the time also. I did piano. And so when I went to, so I was very involved in
mhm,
school. And when I went to St. Andrew for those 2 years, I also got involved because I ran track for the school. And yeah, I played the piano. I
Just about everything.
got involved with the annual 𝐫𝐞𝐭 Cup festival, cultural festival, music and drama and so on.
Mhm,
Because you know, I always did a lot of things.
mhm.
I consider myself to be very well-rounded. I was actually made a prefect after my first year for my
Mhm.
upper sixth year.
Was it because you were a goody goody or because you were disciplined and organized? What do you
I think it was because I was involved in so many things, you know.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
even though I had just come there, I had come there and I had fit in and I was involved, you know, as I say, I ran track, I played the piano, I was involved with drama. I was in the house play. I was one of the lead actors in the house play. So yeah.
yeah, you did it all. That is amazing. Now, when you finished St. Andrew High School doing your O levels, what was in your mind in terms of, okay, what am I going to do with my life?
At the time, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. So I worked for the summer and really enjoyed it. I worked within the national, at the time, planning agency
Okay.
and central planning unit it was called, which
Hmm.
is now PIOJ,
Okay.
Planning Institute of Jamaica, but it was at the time Central Planning Unit. I worked there and it was, I started for the summer
Hmm.
and they liked me and I liked them. And so I stayed there for almost 2 years
Wow.
before I went to university. But that was my introduction to work and work ethic. I worked with people like Tony Johnson,
Hmm.
Anthony Johnson,
Right.
Senator Kamina Johnson's father,
Hmm. Hmm.
Gladstone Bonnick.
Hmm.
At the time, Mr. Seaga was the Minister of Finance. And you know, he was a hard taskmaster.
Hmm.
And Dr. Bonnick and Mr. Johnson, they were reporting to Mr. 𝐫𝐞𝐭. So they had to put together, and I now came in as I was like an apprentice, and they were teaching me how to, parse information. And it was just a wonderful work experience. It taught me work ethics, that you work hard, that if 6 o'clock comes and 7 o'clock comes and the thing is not put out, you stay there until, and if it is 9, 10, you stay there until it is you have completed it, because it is required for a larger purpose.
Right.
And I learned about work and work ethics, and that has carried me my entire working life. And I'm so grateful.
That experience helped you to choose accountancy as your career path?
No, no, I actually, it was education,
Mm,
because my father was a pharmacist.
right.
My mother was a teacher. So I applied for a teacher scholarship,
Mm-hmm.
and I was given a teacher's bursary to go to the university. And therefore, when I was completed, I went to teach mathematics at Calabar, because that was my primary subjects at university. Math and econometrics were the two subjects that
Wow.
I really
Wow. You're a
yeah.
heavy hitter, girl. Heavy hitter. Wow, ma.
So
Go ahead.
they had a career fair, and different schools were there recruiting, and I was interviewed by a couple of them, and Calabar was the one that I chose to go to. And I spent 7 glorious years at Calabar.
Wow.
I
That's
enjoyed every minute of it.
Who are some of the famous young men who passed through your hands while you were there at
Well,
Calabar that time?
your friend, Andrea Clark,
Yes.
I fixed up her husband for her, because her husband, Kipling Clark, was my my student. So
Oh, wow,
when
I
you
love
see
that.
her, you can just let her know that, I'm claiming to be the one that, sort of put him and made him who he is,
Today.
so that she could have chosen him. But
But also because of whatever work ethic you taught Kipling, I benefited from that too. Because Kipling was one of my studio engineers when I worked at JIS Radio. So, and that was for a good 2 years and counting. And Kipling was one of our ace engineers. When you were working with Kipling, you didn't need to worry that your work was not gonna be excellently supported or excellently studio engineered. So thank you, Patricia, for what you have done for me and
yes, yes,
Andrea.
and let me give you some others. Uh,
Yes.
Professor William Aiken, Bill Aiken,
Hmm.
Reverend Devon Dick,
Well,
Reverend Carl Henlin. You see, I put out some pastors to take care of people's spiritual needs.
wow.
Reverend Glenroy Lena at
Mhm,
Bethel Baptist Church, Walter Scott, King's Counsel, Walter
mhm.
Scott,
Wow.
and uh, and several doctors, Dr. Orville Nemard, Dr. Orville Palmer. Yes, yes, Dr. Leon Vaughan, who passed away.
Yes,
Uh,
another good friend of mine. Wow.
Yeah, yes, yes. So, and
Wow.
there are a number of my students who
Mm,
are in Florida. They are doing so well, so well.
I am
Yes.
so happy to hear that. You see, this is the value of a teacher. In Jamaica, we have May being Child's Month. We also have Teachers' Day during May. In Jamaica, we also have Mother's Day. So, this is a great way, the first Monday in May, to be celebrating all of these things with you because you fall under all the titles, right? Literally and figuratively. So, we really appreciate the service that you have brought to our Jamaican education system, and in particular, or boys. That is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Now, when you decided to depart from teaching, what triggered that decision and made you choose another path?
Okay, what triggered that decision was I actually was sent on scholarship to the University of Wisconsin to do a master's in educational evaluation. And I should have been coming back to go to the Ministry of Education.
Mhm,
They had asked me to do my uh, paper, my master's paper on a particular program.
mhm,
And I came to Jamaica, got information, had a discussion with the permanent secretary at the time, and got the go ahead to do this. Went back, organized myself, did my literature review, did everything, and I'm now ready to have my instrument, the survey instrument administered. When I
mhm.
contacted the permanent secretary, I was told that unfortunately the program had to be scrapped. And
Wow.
and I was really, really, really very disappointed
Mm,
because what it basically meant was that I would have to start over. So the
mm,
university, they suggested that I do a program, use one of their programs there.
wow.
But at that point, I just said I wanted to come out of education
Mm,
because I was just disappointed.
mm,
And that was when I decided that I was going to do accounting.
mm,
And it just came out of the blue. I had never done any accounting in my life before. I had never studied accounting
mm,
before. I had never studied accounting in school. I never studied accounting at my bachelor's level. But I decided that I was going to do this master's in accounting,
mhm, mhm, mhm,
which meant that I had to do there were some prerequisite courses that I had to do. And the university said, well, they gave me one academic year to do it.
mhm,
And they said I had to get at least a B plus in the subjects. Now, we're talking about doing accounting one, which is first year accounting, and
mhm.
final year accounting simultaneously.
Wow.
And never, not having done any accounting before.
Mm,
And let me tell you something, man. I I just put my head, my heart, and my soul, and my head, and everything into that.
mhm,
I really, really did. And at the end of the year, I actually got an A in accounting one and a B plus in accounting three,
wow.
along with subjects like commercial law. I got an A in commercial law, and yeah. So I did the prerequisites and then went into the 15-month master's program.
Mm.
And again, I had to put my whole heart and soul into this thing.
Were you working at all full time during all of this, or you were doing it full time or part time?
At the time, I was oh, for the first year that when I was doing the prerequisite, I actually left Calabar
Mhm.
that year. And I went and I taught at Woolmer's Girls
Mm.
because at Calabar, I had a lot of responsibilities as senior teacher and, department head and all that. And I wanted to, I know I could not have done the program
Mhm.
with all of that. And I
Right.
was just too connected and involved with Calabar life, every aspect
Mhm.
of Calabar's life.
Right.
So I left that year and I went to Woolmer's. Now Woolmer's finished class at 1 o'clock. I can just jump in my car and get up to university.
Mhm.
So apart from being a form teacher and the subject teacher, I didn't have any other responsibilities.
Make
So that worked out well for me.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
yeah, so that was the year when I did the prerequisite courses. And then when I went into the master's program now, then I had to, well, I wasn't working per se,
Mhm.
but I actually did an academic year in the social science faculty teaching the math,
Wow.
first year math and stats.
Wow.
And
Yes.
I taught the math and Dr. Packer taught the stats.
Wow.
Right. So I did that. So that was really all that I was doing,
Yeah.
which wasn't
I
wasn't
asked these
backward.
questions about how you managed doing all of that, and how your life was unfolding. Because here you are studying as a working person, and as we say in Jamaica, if you want good, your nose off a run. We apply ourselves as is necessary. We make the necessary changes that we need to make. We do the pivoting, and then we continue to, move ahead towards our end goal. Now, with all
Well,
of that, go
you
ahead.
have to understand my background. My background prepared me for that. Because remember now, when I was in school, I was doing my academics, I was doing track, I was doing netball, and I was also doing music.
Right.
So I was studying music. And even when I was doing my undergraduate, I became an organ student at the Jamaica School of Music. So
Mm,
for my final year, I was on the university track team. I was on Huey's Mona's netball team.
mm,
I was going to intercampus games.
mhm.
I was doing music exams,
Right.
Royal School of Music organ exams, and I mean all of that and my academics at the same time.
Yes,
So so
that is your life.
I had learned throughout my life, I had learned to balance all
All
these.
of them.
Which is
That
why I encourage people to have their children be well-rounded.
is very important. I think it's extremely important. It makes you land on your feet every time.
Yeah,
Sometimes you will find, like, for instance, in my background, doing theater, sometimes you find yourself doing a whole lot of theater and not much else. But you're also still studying, you're still going to university, you're still at work, you're still being a mother. When I did my master's program, my son was already what, 8 or 9 or something like that. So,
exactly.
so you keep on being involved because, man, it is so enriching to
It
be
is.
involved. It is enriching. You can support people, you can laugh with people, you make connections, you create community. So, when we have the opportunity to do these varying things, then we really do need to seize it. And there's no age at which you must stop or why you can't start at whatever age or stage you are. in
And
life.
all of that has benefited me now and is benefiting me now also. You
Yes,
see?
yes, I love that. Now, let's fast forward to the tenure that you had in the Eastern Caribbean, because you were in the Eastern Caribbean for quite a minute. Because it sounds like to me, you were such a dedicated Jamaican, citizen. But here you are, an opportunity presented itself, and you found yourself in the Eastern Caribbean. Did you ever see this ever coming to your table?
Not at all. I actually got a call from Deloitte, St. Martin.
Mm-hmm.
The Glenville Blake, who is a Jamaican
Mm-hmm.
and an accountant, and he went to St. Martin to work with Deloitte. I
Yes.
I was one of his trainers at Deloitte, Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
So he went there, and then they wanted an audit manager, and he suggested to them that they reach out to me. And yes, so they reached out to me. The Mr. Hayden Gittens,
Mm-hmm.
who was the partner there at the time, he wanted to meet me, interview me. He was
Yes.
actually going to something in Miami. So he arranged for me to meet him in Miami. Went to the hotel the morning when we were supposed to meet at X time. I came down early. So I was in the lobby playing the piano when he came down.
Wow.
And that was when we discovered that Mr. Gittens was also an organist in St. Martin.
Wow. Oh,
So,
amazing.
so at that point, to be honest with you, we could have just not bothered to have the interview.
Because the interview was started and over in one piano keystroke. Don't you just
With,
love when stuff like that
with
happens?
what it was, and we just had a very good conversation. And they recruited me,
Mm-hmm.
brought me to St. Martin. I spent 4 years there. I spent 2 years with Deloitte, and the telephone company who was one of our clients. They wanted to set up an internal audit department.
Okay.
So
You
they
were
asked me,
negotiated there, or you just left Deloitte and then just went.
oh no, no, my initial contract was a 2-year contract.
Got it.
So when they discussed it with me,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and I spoke to Mr. Gittens, and so we decided you have to understand that there's no acrimony or
Yes,
anything, because these are small islands.
yes, yes.
And the director general of the telephone company at the time was the former lieutenant governor of the island,
Mm.
Mr. Richardson. So, Mr. Gittens, well, the telephone company was a client of Deloitte. So when he asked, for me to do this, then, we just had a conversation, and I said, okay, I
Mm-hmm,
would go. So I went and helped them to set up the internal audit department.
mm-hmm.
And then the premier of Nevis, I had known from university.
Mm-hmm.
He was actually from in Cave Hill,
Mm,
but we had met. He did cricket for Cave Hill, and
right.
I did netball and track for Mona.
Mm-hmm.
And we had met at intercampus games, and we had always kept in touch.
Right.
So he now asked me to come to Nevis,
Mm.
because they needed a regulator for their financial services, because the regulator had left. And yes, so I decided that I would go.
Such seamless transitions.
And it was a seamless transition. And I know Mr. Richards was, as a matter of fact, when somebody says, just tell us what you want and we will we will give it to you to keep you here, sort of a thing. But I was excited about going to Nevis. And I went and I spent 7 years in Nevis.
Wow. How often
Yes.
did you travel back to Jamaica during that time?
Often enough,
Mhm.
often enough, because well, like Easter, I would, it depends on what is happening also.
You have to go. Okay, got it.
Yes, if cricket is playing, I might come back or so, because what happens, is I don't take my vacation. I
Mhm,
don't take a month's vacation.
mhm.
I will take a 2, 3 days, 4 days, depending on what is happening. And of course, every time election is called in Jamaica, I
You have
jump
to
on
be
a
there.
plane and I have to be here. But you see, I don't take this long period of time and just sit down doing nothing. I take my vacation in order to attend events, to go to
Yes,
sporting events, to go to just to have fun.
yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
I agree. I agree. I think that we have to weave the fun of life into just regular life. I really believe
Yes,
that.
yes.
Because that is how you keep the whole excitement of your life going. So during all of this time, what about family? What about husband, children?
Okay, I got married
Mhm.
when I went to Calabar, my first year in Calabar, the I went there the September and I got married in December.
Wow.
The boys, there's one boy that keeps telling me that, they were so upset when I went home for Christmas and came back with a husband.
They were not pleased.
The
They were
boys
not
were
pleased.
so upset. But I got married then. Well, the marriage broke up,
Mhm.
and basically I've been on my own since
Since then.
then. And I think that this is what has enabled me to be
Mhm.
able to just go from here, there, do this, do that, and just really have a rich life, rich in terms of experiences, because I haven't had any constraints.
Right, right. You
Mhm.
get up and go at a moment's notice, which brings me to my next question, which is this. If you have been involved in the teaching profession, you've been involved in accountancy, auditing, and all of this good stuff, yet retirement for you was such a huge surprise, and the different things that came with this, which led you to write the books that you did on retirement. So, explain the backstory for me as to why retirement was such a oh my goodness for you.
Well, the backstory was that I had never thought about retiring. Um, Nobody had talked to me about it. I had not had any seminar, no workshop, no nothing.
Mm,
But I've always had certain illnesses, and I've had several surgeries. And the last surgery that I had was quite quite a bit, quite a bit.
mhm, mhm.
And I realized that I had to leave Nevis and come back to Jamaica because of medical
Reasons.
reasons,
Mhm, mhm.
right? And so that was what
Woke
brought
you.
me back,
Mm-hmm.
to Jamaica. And I left. That's what took me out of the working world.
Mm.
And I left and I came back to Jamaica. And I actually started writing a book about my life, stories of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I had intended to publish that. I went to this publishing course, and what it was about publishing.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy said, if you were to write a book, give us a topic. And I used the topic, the joys of retirement. And then I started mapping out some chapters, traveling, the usual thing, traveling, volunteering, mentoring. And I put in there learning a musical instrument.
Mm-hmm.
So after the publishing course, it was a 2-day publishing course, I put aside the papers. But then I was looking for something a couple months later, and I bounced on the papers. And when I started looking through the papers, I said, you know something? I should really write this book.
Mm.
And that is when I started researching
Mm-hmm.
and getting things together. And then what you have to understand, because of the breadth of my experience, my life experience, I was able to put a lot of myself in terms of my experience
Mm-hmm.
into this book, because I had done a lot of traveling. So, and I had traveled to Europe and Africa and all of that. So I was able to do a whole chapter on that. I was learning at the time to play the violin, just started learning to play the violin. And so I could talk about, learning to play a musical instrument at 60 odd years old.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And of course, I also was a justice of the peace.
Mm-hmm.
So I could talk about volunteering, and I did other volunteer activities. And it was just a natural fit.
Right. Uh-huh.
It was just a natural fit. So that is how the first book came about,
And the name of the first book is
called Retirement, a New Adventure.
Retirement, a New Adventure. And when was this book published?
It was published in the end of December 2016. We
Mm-hmm.
had a launch in January 2017.
And what was the feedback like to that book?
Oh, the feedback was very good.
Mm-hmm.
It people loved it.
What kind of comments were you getting?
Well, people were they were excited or impressed. They were impressed about the fact that I was bringing out all these things that people could do in retirement, that people were not thinking
Dory.
about
Right.
initially. And the whole matter of learning to play a musical instrument. And when I put in there my experience with the violin and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole chapter on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And I was learning sorts of all
Things.
sorts of things about the internet. There were some young people, Alicia Little
Mm-hmm.
and her outfit, Internet Income Jamaica. They were teaching me graphics. They were teaching me all sorts
You were
of
getting the whole 9 yards.
I was getting the whole 9 yards. I was just learning a lot of stuff, and I was able to translate this and put it in the book.
Now is a good time for you to share with us an excerpt from the joy of retirement, if you will.
Retirement, a new adventure.
Sorry, retirement, a new adventure.
Right, because although when I was prepping, it was the joys of retirement. By the time it came out, it was titled Retirement, a New Adventure. And I must say that the cover of the book was designed by Patrick Champagny, a Calabar old boy.
Oh yes,
I
wow.
I did not actually teach Patrick, but
Wow.
he was a student when I was teaching there, and he was an excellent art student. So the
Amazing. I
cover was
love that.
designed by him.
Yes.
I will read you a little section here about my experience learning to play the violin at that age. Remember now, I started learning to play the violin when I was 64 years old.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It certainly felt a bit awkward for me to pick up the violin at this stage. First, I had to simply learn to hold the bow properly. No easy task. And to keep it on the correct string, which is not easy when each string is only a fraction of an inch from the next. For many long hours of practice, I felt like a child in elementary school, and not altogether in a good way. Anyone who has heard a novice practice on the violin knows how awful the squeaks and squawks can sound.
Uh-huh.
Many times I wanted to put in earplugs, but I pressed on. A few months into this musical journey, I posted my rendition of Beethoven's Ode to Joy on my Facebook page in an effort to test the waters.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the squeaks and squawks, the comments of my Facebook friends were very encouraging. They all congratulated me on my new skill and even thanked me for sharing the performance with them. Though they acknowledged that I was no concert violinist at that point in my journey, they said my video encouraged them to believe that new abilities were within reach, even for old dogs. Spurred on by these positive comments, I practiced long and hard, eventually achieving my first goal of playing the classical gem, Pachelbel's Canon in D, and the local favorite, Bob Marley's Three Little Birds, at my 65th birthday party. What a feeling of accomplishment. Now, well into my 7th decade of life, I am on my way to becoming an accomplished violinist. But of course, COVID took care of that.
Oh wow, I see. But you were prepared for COVID then, because if we had to stay on the inside, this gave you amazing experience to just again delve deepest into your own personal pursuits.
Ah, to be honest with you, during COVID, I was extremely traumatized
Mm,
because I have I have kidney disease.
mm,
I I have lost several organs. I have no thyroid.
mm.
I my colon, a piece of my colon is gone, and the rest of it is stapled up. And as I told you, I've had 6 major
So
surgeries, right?
you don't look like what you've been through, ma'am. You
No, no,
absolutely do not look like
I
what you
don't.
have been through.
But I
How did
was
you navigate the challenge of COVID and what that meant for
I
you with your health
I
challenge? How did you
I
deal with
was
it? How did you get over it?
I was just afraid. I stayed in. Not even my neighbors at the time, I think she was like 4 years old or so. Not even she could have come into my house, the little baby. I used to be so sorry for her. She used to be at the window there just looking at me and not being able to
Wow.
come in. But I just had to stay in.
Very careful, of course.
And I had a number of people who were laughing at me, right? I had people who were, I went somewhere and I took myself away from everybody and I went on the outside. And somebody came out there and said, "Boy, Auntie Pat, you're afraid of COVID, but dengue, mosquito going to bite you and dengue going to kill you." Yeah,
These dirty Jamaicans not easy, you know.
yeah. That's your Jamaicans.
Oh my God.
So
Oh my, them not take nothing serious. Them not take nothing.
right. So
Oh my God.
people, so
Here you,
a
you
lot
have
of people
survived.
laughed at me, and I just never went anywhere. When my friends and family, they were going to like going to parties or going to
Right.
wherever events and so on, I would not be there.
You have to be careful. You
And I missed out on a lot of entertainment at the time, but because it took me quite a while to even start interfacing in terms of entertainment,
yes.
because I had to keep, because I know if I got COVID, I could not survive.
Right.
I know that, because I know I don't have enough in me.
Right. And you know what, too? You can choose the way you want to leave this earth. And if you don't have to get COVID, then you just
Right,
don't have to.
right,
That's the
right.
beginning, middle, and the end of that story. As we wrap up this evening, Patricia, what are the 5 most important things we need to consider when it comes on to preparing for retirement? And
So
what age? I said, as we wrap up,
yeah,
what are the 5 things, the 5 most important things we have to consider when it comes on to preparing for retirement? And what age should we start doing this?
okay. You need to start thinking about retirement when you start working, because one of the things is that your obligations may not be as heavy at the time when you start working as they would be later on, when you buy the house and you have the mortgage and so on. So there are things that you may be able to do in terms of financial, your pension,
Yeah.
increasing your pension contributions at that point. So you asked about 5 important things. First of all, it's very important for you to have a pension account, and especially people who are self-employed,
Mhm.
because that is where my mistake was. I was working on contract and not contributing to a pension account.
Right.
And when you're working on contract, or when you're working, self-employed, you tend not to think about this.
Yes.
But it is very important that you do. So somewhere along the line, you need to have some sort of a pension account,
Right.
because it also helps, because you get it tax-free at that point. I mean, you pay tax on the back end,
Right.
but at least you get it, it comes off before tax. So that's one thing. Another thing is that you have to take care of yourself physically. You must take care of yourself because you don't want to get into retirement in bad shape.
Right.
Because all your money is going to be spent on medical bills, as is happening to me now, right? Because my medical bills are fairly high. And you want to make sure that you lock yourself into a health insurance, because you don't want to wait until later on when the insurance is going to be it's going to be too expensive, number
Right.
one. Or you may not get it because they may consider you to have too many pre-existing conditions. So you want to lock down that health insurance. And as you go along and you're paying the insurance, and you may say to yourself, boy, why am I paying this? Why am I paying this? But you never know. You never know. And one incident can clean you out. Clean you out. So you have to be far-sighted. And then another thing I would say is you need to cultivate hobbies, because you can't just be working and not doing anything. You need to cultivate hobbies, because at the time of retirement, many of these hobbies that you cultivate can actually turn into income generating activities. And even if you feel that you don't, even if your financial situation is of such that you're fairly comfortable, the fact of the matter is it doesn't hurt to make a few extra bucks. You see?
Indeed.
And also, the hobbies, being engaged in the hobbies, gives you something to keep you active and engaged, and also to allow you to meet people and engage with people and have that kind of broad social engagement.
Correct.
And of course, as you grow older, you're going to need people. And I tell people, there is a section in the second book, my second book, which is called Retirement, the Journey and the Destination. And Patrick Champagny also did the cover of this too. But there's a section there that I talk about the importance of renewing and restoring all these broken and lapsed relationships. Because
like how you put that, these broken and lapsed relationships. Yes.
And because as you go older, you need people. And if all these people who are supposed to or were in your life, and you vex with this one, you're not talking to your brothers and sisters because of the dead left property, and
that foolishness.
all these slights, somebody did you something how many years ago, and you're still vexed about it, and you're alienated. Then when you get to this stage of life, it's going to be very difficult. I am in a Facebook group of women 60 years and over. And when you see some of the posts that some of them post in the group, telling you about their alienation from their children, they have no friends, they feel invisible. These are the things that people are writing there. You see? So it's very important for you to build out your network, build out your social network, and get back to the people who in your life who were of importance in your life. So sometimes it's not just it's a matter that when you were working, you didn't pay them any mind because you were so busy working. That's another thing too. Sometimes, we just we just lock ourselves off from people because we are too busy for them. And you have to understand that these are people that you're gonna need later on in life.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. That is so true. I think that you have definitely shared some key points. Where can we find your books, Patricia?
Well, both books are on Amazon. This one is geared really for younger persons, like persons 40, 40 and up. And the books are on Amazon. They
Mhm.
are in
Hold up both,
the
hold up both books so we can see them, so that when we go on Amazon, we can know what we're looking for. So let's see both books, Lady Patricia.
right.
Good. Awesome.
So so if you put in my name, Patricia Reid-Waugh, on Amazon, then you will
Oh,
see the books
come up.
that come up. And they are in Jamaica. I have them at Pegasus Gift Shop, at the University Bookshop, and at Reader's Bookshop in Ligonier.
Mhm, mhm.
And the retirement, A New Adventure, is also available on Barnes and Noble.
All right. Excellent. Listen, Patricia, I could talk to you all night, but we have other interests to go follow up, right? I thank you so much for your tips about planning for retirement, that it really should start from your in your 40s. Unfortunately, for many people who are in their 40s, they're still raising their families and still looking forward to putting their kids through college or to start their own businesses and so on. And in Jamaica, we do have a saying, every mickle make a muckle. So if we do it one by one, bit by bit,
Little by little, just a little. If you just a little, you know,
we will get there.
yes, you'll get there. You'll get there.
We'll get there. Patricia, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your life. Thank you for your books. And thank you for sharing with us just a little bit, just a smidgen of your personality, your life experiences, because right now I am totally inspired. So let me go draw up a new retirement plan for myself as well, because I'm right there. Although I've been practicing retirement maybe for the last 30, 40 years in terms of not being too stuck in one thing and being involved in several different things. And I agree with you 100%, everything you've said about building community, looking for new interests, new hobbies, and of course, very much so, taking care of self. Continue to take care of yourself, Patricia. And we're glad to be making this connection. And we look forward to hearing so much more from you. And hopefully, we can chat again soon. All right.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Same here. You have been watching Why I Write with me, your host, Toplin Oliver, and my very special guest tonight, Patricia Reid-Waugh. Her two books are on Amazon. Look for her name. We will drop the links in the comments.